Hello and welcome to News Now. The Code of Conduct Tribunal has adjourned till November 19th the trial of the Senate President Bukola Saraki on charges leveled against him by the Code of Conduct Bureau. Saraki on Thursday returned to the Code of Conduct Tribunal for the continuation of his trial. He is facing a 13-count charge bordering on corruption and false declaration of assets. Now, on Wednesday, Saraki appealed to the Supreme Court to stop the trial after the Court of Appeal in Abuja refused the request last week. At the hearing on Thursday, Saraki was accompanied to the tribunal by several senators. Meanwhile, all the lawyers representing the Senate President in the case have withdrawn from the case. Their withdrawal follows the ruling of the tribunal to continue trial, a decision which the lawyers describe as judicial rascality. Saraki then asked for a month to reconstitute his defense. However, lawyer to the federal government kicked against it. The tribunal, however, ruled that it will give the Senate President 1 week to reconstitute his legal team. The Senate President has described the charges leveled against him by the Code of Conduct Bureau as false and frivolous, adding that the charges were calculated to rubbish him. Let's still discuss that drama that happened at the Code of Conduct Tribunal today. Let's discuss that further. I'm now being joined on the news by Malaki Ugumadu, who is the national president of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Malaki, thank you very much for joining us. Let me start by asking you what you make by the decision of the lawyers now to the President of the Senate, withdrawing from the trial and describing the action of the Code of Conduct Tribunal as a judicial rascality.
Well, let's put it in perspective. The fact is to say that it is well within the discretion of the lawyers to know when to quit or exit the exercise. But I don't think that in doing that, they have liberty to level judicial officers in the presence of the court or within the presence of the court with the very unbecoming languages that they've used. For me, that amounts to a very serious case of contempt. Now, having said that, it is also important to realize that the trial going on presently has a lot to do with the integrity quotient of the accused person. That is not to say that his presumption of innocence is no longer guaranteed under the Constitution. Indeed, it is a fundamental human right that any person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. That much is guaranteed under the Constitution and even under so many other international conventions and statutes and instruments. However, when you appeal, when you file a notice of appeal in any appellate court, that notice of appeal does not operate as a stay. That is the law. Therefore, it is only when you argue and move that appeal and have it granted that it can operate as a stay. And therefore, one believes that it is well within a sound legal reasoning for the trial tribunal judge to insist, given the very philosophy of the recent Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which was passed on the 13th of May 2015, that the trial should go on. Indeed, the entire philosophy of the quick dispensation of justice is designed to take care of such applications that are clearly introduced to truncate speedy dispensation of justice. Now, the issue is, assuming without conceding that the Supreme Court, fails as it were to even give a date for the hearing of that application in the next 1 year, which is what is happening in the Supreme Court, if sure people are familiar with it. Does it mean that this case will remain abandoned at the tribunal? Certainly, it doesn't go well for. In my view, I would have thought that a man who believes that he's innocent and who feels that he has all in terms of defense to deal with the exigencies of the matter should be in a haste to relieve himself of this burden. Now, I do not know precisely what has happened, but the reason given by the lead counsel, senior advocate of Nigeria, is to the fact that since the judge was aware that he has appealed to the Supreme Court, in which he seeks also for a stay of execution and proceedings, that the judge ought to, refrain from continuing with the trial. And we have made the point. If as many are want to do, if you rush to the appellate court and file a notice of appeal and go to sleep, that will not stop the proceedings at the lower court. What can only stop the proceeding at the lower court is if you have successfully argued the application for stay of proceeding and it is granted. It is at that point that the lower court is now hamstrung
sorry to interrupt you.
Second, until that happens, the court is at liberty, given the entire circumstances of the matter, to proceed with the matter. So I, for one, I'm speaking on behalf of the Committee for Defense of Human Rights, find this very, very, very disturbing for two strategic reasons. One, we have gone too far in the woods. We have sunk so low that issues bordering on integrity, for instance, no longer reign supreme in the minds and consciousness of our people. I used to think that the most honorable thing to do when there are concrete allegation of such practices bordering on integrity, on fraudulent practices, the honorable thing to do is even to step aside. And that brings me to the question of the holy solidarity that the entire members of the Senate are rendering at this unholy time. You see, it is an endorsement. Sorry, my brother. It is an endorsement by their conduct for supporting, as a political class, supporting the transgressions that have wrecked this society. What one would have thought, if they are still distinguished members of the hallowed chambers of the Senate, is to refrain and then even encourage him, if not compel him to step aside while the case is pending the conclusion of the case. How does it feel? Well, I don't blame them, because in retrospect, if you knew that your former President Jonathan had as the chairman of his campaign publicity committee of his campaign team, one who was standing trial at the Federal High Court, then you won't wonder why all of these shenanigans are going on.
Malaki, thank you very much for your thoughts there, and thank you very much for joining us on News Now.
I appreciate it for the opportunity.
Yeah. Now, operatives of the Department of State Services on Thursday placed former National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki under house arrest. Investigations have revealed that the DSS operatives besieged the residence of Dasuki with the intent to prevent him from embarking on a planned trip to the United Kingdom for medical treatment. The actions of the DSS comes just days after a federal high court in Abuja gave Dasuki permission to travel out of the country for medical treatment. He was first arrested by the SSS in July after a prolonged siege on his Abuja home. Dasuki is standing trial for alleged unlawful possession of firearms and money laundering. Now, Justice Adeniyi Ademola of the Federal High Court on Tuesday granted Dasuki's request for his passport to be released to enable him receive treatment abroad for 3 weeks. Now, media reports, however, suggest that the former NSA's plan to travel on Wednesday night was thwarted by the SSS. His trial was, of course, adjourned till November the 26th and 27th, 2015. Of course, he cannot travel now because he's been placed under house arrest. And of course, we've been getting reactions on the Dasuki's saga, and the TMG, that's a transition monitoring group, has faulted the ruling of a federal high court judge granting the former National Security Advisor permission to travel abroad for medical treatment. Now, Justice Adeniyi Ademola had on Tuesday granted Dasuki's request for his passport to be released to enable him receive treatment abroad for 3 weeks. But TMG National Chairman Ibrahim Zikirulahi told newsmen in Abuja today that the decision of the judge is a clear demonstration of the country's judicial system favoring the rich and powerful at the expense of the poor and downtrodden. He says the government should appeal against the court's decision.
We advise the DSS, the authority concerned, the Federal Ministry of Justice, to take necessary steps to file a stay of judgment on that particular case. They should appeal the judgment. We have seen it happen in Rivers. The tribunal has struck down Wike's election. Wike is still there, enjoying his office until the higher courts, appeal and Supreme Court, adjudicate on the matter. And therefore, we are requesting the federal government to do same by taking up appeal, staying judgment on that request. Let Dasuki continue to face his trial here. We have hospital here. We don't believe that Dasuki is going for medical checkup. We believe that Dasuki is absconding from justice. These are the people that have wreaked havoc in this society, and they need to be dealt with. So there shouldn't be an escape route. We see it as a lean way of favoring him to first, the Dasuki appeared in court, and he was granted self-recognition. Somebody that we were told 12 cars were found in his house with 6 armored cars. If you multiply the cost of those cars with the number of cars, you know how much that is involved. And not to talk of the cash that were found in his house in various foreign currencies, and then in Naira. Then you talk about the arms. He's here to disclose to Nigeria what he wanted to use those arms for. And then such person was brought to court and he was granted self-recognition. When people that have stolen phone of 10,000 naira are taken to magistrate court and they are reminded, some are waiting trial for 5 years, and what kind of justice are we talking about?
A Medview Airline aircraft en route to Abuja on Thursday morning returns to the Murtala Mohammed Airport. That's Murtala Mohammed Airport 2, Lagos, some minutes after takeoff. According to sources, the aircraft developed a pressurization problem which affected the cooling system while flying at about 8,000 feet. The source said there was no panic as the pilot properly briefed the passengers and landed safely. Meanwhile, Acting General Manager Public Relations, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Sam Adurugboye, confirmed the incident to the news agency of Nigeria, saying the air return was a precautionary measure to prevent any untoward occurrence. Adurugboye said the pilot acted according to standard and recommended practices, SARS, adding that such incidents should not be sensationalized. Senate President Bukola Saraki has named 65 Senate committees to oversee various ministries, departments and agencies of the government. Senator Saraki also named the chairman and vice chairman of these committees. A total of 41 committees are chaired by the All Progressives Congress senators, while 24 committees are headed by the People's Democratic Party PDP. The Senate President had in July directed each senator to fill forms indicating their interest in the committees they had wished to belong to. Now, Nigerian lawmakers have rejected a motion for the payment of 5,000 naira monthly allowance to unemployed youths in the country. The motion was sponsored by Philip Aduda of the PDP, but was greeted with objections. Attempts by the minority leader Godswill Akpabio to second the motion were disrupted by the rowdiness intervening. President of the Senate Bukola Saraki posed the question, but the senators responded along party lines. While People's Democratic Party members were in favor of the motion, All Progressives Congress senators, who were in majority, rejected it. Now, PDP leaders have lately called on President Muhammadu Buhari and the ruling APC to fulfill their campaign promise of paying 5,000 naira to unemployed Nigerian youths. The motion on Wednesday is believed to have been part of that call. The federal government on Thursday began a 2-day retreat for the 36 ministers who have been confirmed by the Nigerian Senate The retreat, scheduled to end on Friday, November 6th, was held at the presidential villa in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital territory. President Buhari asked the ministers designate to count themselves privileged to have been chosen among millions to be the drivers of the change that the ruling party promised Nigerians. Notably present at the retreat were President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, all ministers designate and other presidential aides and top government officials. The event is being organized by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Senate President, Bukola Saraki had on Tuesday handed over the final list of ministers who scaled through the confirmation process to President Buhari. The Akwa Ibom State government in the south of Nigeria has been awarded a license for the expansion of its power grid from 190 megawatts to 685 megawatts. Presenting the license in Abuja to the state governor Emmanuel Udom, chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Dr. Sam Amadi, congratulated the state on its determination to expand on its power infrastructure and improve on power generation. Governor Udom said the state would actually execute the entire details contained in the expansion license, promising the people of the state uninterrupted power supply when the project is finally completed.
If we are sitting here with the governor today to sign and present the license, that is indicative that the government of Akwa Ibom has scrupulously followed through the procedure and have been certified to be worthy and able to increase their capacity from 190 to whooping 695 megawatts. That's not easy. And of course, like I said, they have done this before, so I believe they will do it. The continuity and commitment to power generation in Akwa Ibom State. We want to encourage the governor to continue to show more commitment, improving perhaps transmission, distribution, and other aspects helping out. So Akwa Ibom State government is clearly a front runner here and has shown a good example and a good model of public-private partnership. So as the commission is sincerely congratulate them and we welcome the governor, his team. We commit that we're going to provide all support that we can afford to help the government of Akwa Ibom remain at the top of corporate investment in power production.
So I'm delighted to be here today and is to receive this expanded license on behalf of the Power Company. It's a wholly owned subsidiary independent power plant of the Akwa Ibom State government. And needless to say that it's one of the first independent power plants in this country. So I'm proud that even with several challenges in this industry, Ibom Power is contributing about 190 megawatts of generation to the national grid. This is highly commendable. These achievements did not just come by accident. It happened because the state government over the years invested heavily in this subsector. And we are constantly reminding ourselves of the value chain inherent in this subsector. And I promise we'll abide by the terms and conditions of this license because we know that we'll soon come back.
We'll take a short break here and News Now will be right back.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, but this way you talk, it's too much. Give me 5,000 man that you. It's too much. So you get it like, when she move along the street, yeah, me should like that, I'm going girl. You know, my own people, actually. Yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm one of those very few, I'm forever taking it personal. I will listen 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? Brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business and know the pitfalls and know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do? How we tell you? We did the way you did.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, we will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. South Africa's government has expressed deep concern over the 5.2 billion naira fine imposed by Nigerian authorities on telecommunication company MTN. A cabinet minister, Jeff Radebe, on Thursday said this would not affect relations between the continent's two biggest economies. Africa's biggest mobile phone company was last week fined by the Nigerian telecoms regulator for failing to cut off users with unregistered SIM cards from its network. Nigeria, which is MTN's biggest market, has been pushing all telecom operators to verify the identity of their subscribers on concerns that unregistered SIM cards were being used for criminal activities in the country. Since this development, the Johannesburg-based company has embarked on talks now with Nigerian regulators in an attempt to reduce the fine. The Nigerian Communications Commission said in October all telecom firms except NTN had complied with the directive to disconnect 5.1 million subscribers. Now, still on the fine imposed on MTN, while talks are continuing in Abuja, the issue is also generating reactions in the country, with some saying while the fine is actually hefty, the country's national security must not be toyed with. Here's what one telecoms analyst had to say about the issue.
For me, basically, I think it's huge. I'm just thinking in my mind, how will they cope? How can they afford that kind of money? Because that's 25% of the entire budget of Nigeria, But again, let's hope we can come around it. We can discuss it, because this is MTN, this is Nigeria, this is a company that has invested, massively in the nation's economy. This is the first operator with a GSM in Nigeria. MTN took the gauntlet where it was not convenient, when everybody seemed to be backing out at that time. They took the gauntlet and they invested in the economy. So my reaction would be that come down to the round table and discuss. Should MTN pay a fine? I think so. I think they should pay a fine to act as deterrent, as a lesson to others, because other subscribers will be watching to say, if you let MTN go, then tomorrow we can do ours and we can also beg. So, but the slamming should not be, or the fine should not be this heavy. This, I think, is too heavy. A prominent senator in the Nigerian Senate, Senator Ben MurrayBuff of Bayelsa State, has also been speaking on the MTN fine. I spoke with him on the phone earlier.
What I'm objecting to is a fine of $5.2 billion, which is 1/4 of the national budget of Nigeria. It seems excessive, and the punishment does not fit the crime. In other words, it makes us look really bad, and it scares away foreign investors, and it gives the impression Nigeria is broke and we're trying to make money of companies. And that's my quarrel with the NCC. I have no quarrel with sanctions. I have no quarrel with a fine, but the fine must match the offense, and I do not believe the fine matches the offense.
Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation says the federal government has approved the payment of 413 billion naira to oil marketers as outstanding payment for subsidy claims. The corporation, in a statement by the Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Ohia Legwe, said with the outstanding payment due to oil marketers now assured, the marketers and other downstream players will join hands with the NNPC to guarantee that the nation remains supplied with petroleum products all year round. According to the NNPC, the payment would ensure that there would be no scarcity of the product. The corporation also stressed that it had injected additional volumes into the market in order to ensure zero fuel queues ahead of the festive season. Oil prices rose on Thursday, pairing some of the losses incurred a day earlier after data showed U.S. inventory levels had risen for a sixth week. A day earlier, oil fell by nearly 4% after the Energy Information Administration said U.S. crude inventories added 2.85 million barrels last week, in line with forecasts, despite a drop in imports. On Thursday, Brent crude futures were up 24 cents to $48.82 a barrel. U.S. crude futures rose 18 cents to $46.50 a barrel, having lost 3% the day before. OPEC oil ministers are due to meet December 4th to decide whether to extend their year-long strategies, now allowing prices to fall slow, higher cost rival supply. Now, analysts say OPEC, along with Russia, is unlikely to change track. Intelligence suggests the Russian plane that crashed in Egypt, killing all 224 people on board, may have been brought down by a bomb, U.S. and UK officials said on Thursday. Britain admitted that there was a significant possibility that Islamic State's Egyptian affiliate was behind the suspected bomb attack on the Russian airliner that crashed in the Sinai Peninsula, but they say they have not yet reached a formal conclusion. Egypt has dismissed the claims by militants linked to Islamic State that they brought down the plane. The country's civil aviation minister Hossam Kamel said officials have found no evidence to support the theory that a bomb caused the crash. Now, reacting to the latest development, Russia said such theories were speculation at this stage and only the official investigation can determine what happened. The topic is sensitive for Russia, whose warplanes have launched raids against Islamic State in Syria, and for Egypt, which depends heavily on revenues from tourism. Sports now. The Super Eagles of Nigeria have dropped down 7 places to 59th position in the latest FIFA World Ranking. The Eagles, who won one of their 2 matches in October, also dropped to 12th in the African chart, while Cote d'Ivoire overtook Algeria as Africa's top team. Meanwhile, Belgium continues their surge up the ranking table, moving up 2 places to 1st in the world for the first time ever, while Wales dropped to 15th despite qualifying for the European Championship for the first time in their history. World champions Germany maintained their 2nd position in the world, while Argentina went down to 3rd, switching places with Belgium. The FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup African final qualifying match between Nigeria's Falconets and the Batsasena of South Africa will now take place in South Africa on Sunday, November the 8th. The match, earlier slated for Saturday, has been moved at the instance of the South African Football Association, but the venue still remains the Makulong Stadium in Johannesburg. An executive committee member of the Nigerian Football Federation, Ibrahim Gusso, will lead the delegation that will be made up of 18 players, 10 technical crew, and of course backroom staff. Falconets head coach Peter Dedevo said his girls were ready for the big battle, with the fixture delicately poised at 2-1 in favor of Nigeria. Real Madrid striker Karim Benzema has been placed under formal investigations following an alleged plot to blackmail France teammate Mathieu Valbuena with a sex tape. The 27-year-old, who denies any wrongdoing, was placed in custody after being summoned on Wednesday morning. He was the 2nd footballer to be questioned by the police after former international Djibril Cissé was taken into custody last month over the same issue. The matter relates to a judicial investigation opened in July over claims that Valbuena was the subject of an extortion attempt. However, Cissé was released after being questioned by police, but Benzema was referred to the investigating judge in the Vasile courthouse. The judge has now confirmed that Benzema is under formal investigation for complicity in attempted blackmail and participation in a criminal conspiracy. His lawyer, Sylvain Cormier, told reporters after hearing that Benzema was innocent and took no part in any blackmail or attempted blackmail. If he's found guilty, Benzema faces a possible 5-year prison sentence. That's it in news now. Thank you very much for watching. Continue to stay tuned to TV360.